This is happiness, to be everything at once. Be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Mood Prep. My name is Dave Nixon, and today I'm going to share a story about today, basically. I went and saw my nephew play football, rugby league, for those of you that are curious about cross codes and all sorts of stuff. A pretty common code here in Australia. And it was pretty interesting. I mean, I got there for the second half. I haven't seen any of his games all year. I've seen him play before, and I think they were up like 16-4 or something at some point. And a try is 4 points. You can do a conversion afterwards. It's another 2 points. And then at full time, it's 16-all. Right, the other team has come up. So they go to extra time, and extra time is 5 minutes both ways. And basically, what we found out later on is that after the second 5 minutes, if the scores are still locked, then it's whoever scores the next points wins, right? In soccer or football, round football, that's called a golden goal. Anyway, so it was actually a very good game. I mean, it was under 13s. I haven't seen an under 13s game for many, many moons, probably since I played. But other than that, it was a good game to watch. It was, the kids were really in this learning stage of like how to keep going when they're tired and fatigued. Like for a 12 to 13-year-old to really have to learn that. You know, it goes well past the football field, right? These are skills for life that the game's never finished. And so it's really interesting to go, well, they were up, they were basically winning. They were winning and almost had it won. And then the other team came back and leveled the scores. And so it's like, for all of us, a lesson here, I mean, this is something that I'm using this as something that, like on a story, an analogy, almost a metaphor for something that I've really paid attention to within myself in recent times. It's like, never take your foot off the accelerator. Never take your foot off the accelerator. Now, keep in mind there is a brake. You do need to stop and slow down, yes. But what I'm talking about is with the pressure on to an idea to run the business, to go from there. Maybe the analogy isn't don't take your foot off the accelerator. Maybe the analogy is don't take your eyes off the road. Maybe that's what it is. So you know when to put your foot down and when to take your foot off and put it on the brake. You know when to switch gears. You know when to turn. And so maybe that is the analogy in this, is to keep your eyes on the road, keep your eyes on the ball, keep your eyes on the fact that at any point in time, things can change, the wind can change direction, and then if all you've got is one speed or all you've got is one style of thinking, you lack flexibility. At some point, you're going to perish because of that. And there's something that I've definitely shared in the podcast in the past, over the last 400 or something, and that is like the score 0-all. My dad, when playing hockey, would talk about how the score's 0-all. And I was young. I was like 11 or 12. And I'm like, Dad, it's, the other team's winning 2-0 or we're up 2-0 or whatever it may be. He's like, it doesn't matter. It's 0-all. We got to go and work hard to get that first point again. And so even when your team is up, and when I say your team, it could be your sporting team. It could be you with starting out your business, or maybe the business you've had for a while. It could be, maybe it's in a relationship. It doesn't really matter in what context. What it is realizing that the score is always 0-all. Always keep that same hunger to get the next point, and then the next point, and the next point. Because that's how you hold on. That's where courage comes from, resilience, all of these things. This is what's really interesting, right, is that no matter what, I mean, the game's never over until it's actually over, no matter what the scoreline is. And that's the same for business, and business is kind of interesting. And Simon Sinek talks about this as how, like with sport, it's a finite game. There's rules and there's a time. There has to be an end. There has to be an end result. In business, there's not. It's infinite. There's almost infinite resources, almost. When it comes to thinking, there's infinite resources. But there's no time, right? There's no time. You don't run out of time. You run out of resources in a lot of time, but there's no time. It's infinite. Your business can keep playing. It can keep playing. It can keep playing. And the same can be said for many other things in life as well, whether it be relationships, whether it be study. Like, imagine if we took that same analogy to study. Like, today it's 0-all. I'm going back to the cafe, going back to the library, and I'm studying my ass off like I've never studied before. And so this hunger, and I feel like this hunger, when we choose it, is really, really healthy. It's like when it's driven from an extrinsic motivation to prove something wrong or prove someone wrong or to do something along those lines, we have to be careful, because as soon as either we realize they don't care or we get it when we realize that we're empty, we sort of lose a lot of motivation for life. It's got to be intrinsic. It's got to be attached to purpose, attached to drive, attached to meaning. That's so crucial for us to then have a true north, so we know where we're going, we know what we're working towards, and we can constantly be able to measure. It's like, is this helping me get there or not? And then have the discipline to say, okay, it is, I'm going to keep going, or it's not, all right, it's time to cut it. But here's the other thing about, I've sort of painted the picture around probably the more positive side of fighting it out right to the end and winning, and his team did win. They scored the last try after like an extra 25 minutes of extra time. Right? Good on them. But the other thing is that even if you lose, if you battle all the way to the end, you develop yourself for next time. But if you give up before the game's over, just because you've lost that game, well, you've lost the bigger game. You've lost the bigger picture. Even if you lost a game or you lost a client or you lost something, battle that out to the end. Because if you battle out all of your losses, over the times you'll turn losses into wins. And this is grit. This is resilience. This is our ability to be a worthy opponent. Because above everything else, what else is there, really? Like, with whatever it is, your endeavor is, be a fucking worthy opponent. Like, take it to the system. Take it to the game. Take it to the opponent. Take it to whatever it is. But to battle it out right through to the end allows us to develop, maybe not on the score sheet of that game, whatever game means for you. But the more that we do that, the more skill sets we build, the longer we can play the game, the more experience we get, right? Because what happens is that if we go and we bow out with 10 minutes to go because we're not going to make it and we lose, whatever that meaning structure is for you, right? Play along with your context. Then you're setting yourself up for a pattern to do it again. Next time the same thing, you're like, oh, I know what happens. I know how this ends. And then you kind of pull back. When your back's against the wall, right? When you're up against the ropes, you can't go further back. Go forward. Go forward as your defense. And in doing so, you'll realize that your opponent as well is breakable. Everything is. Everything can fall. Empires fall. Everything can fall. And so the beautiful thing here is that no matter what, until the siren sounds, whatever that means for you, once again, until the siren sounds, keep moving forward. It's 0-all. Whether you're down or they're down, it doesn't matter. It's 0-all. Bring back that hunger. Understand an intrinsic reason why you're doing what you're doing and why it's important to you. And let that fuel the reason why you're getting back up, right? And the most powerful thing of all this, right, is really truly understanding that when we aim to be a worthy opponent, when we aim to be the best we can be, and think of that sentence not just as a cliche comment, but to be the best that I can means I need to go to work every single day. For me, for my reasons, for my purpose, not to prove anyone wrong, not to beat someone for the sake of beating someone, but to truly test and understand exactly what my limits are, mentally, physically, emotionally. Like, that's the thing, like, we've got to be really careful of hiding, like, protecting our emotions. Why? How the fuck do we build emotional resilience when we just continually bubble wrap our emotions to make sure we never get offended? That's the other thing that's interesting around offense, is that offense isn't given, it's taken. People take offense. They don't give offense. It's an individual subjective thing. And so our ability to build emotional resilience, not emotional immaturity, that's different. Emotional resilience, to understand the true meaning of things and the meanings that we're giving it. To understand true mental resilience and our ability to get back up again and again and again and understand the bigger picture and have a bigger frame of mind, a process frame of mind. And then physical resilience. To know when to throw in the towel and to know never to throw in the towel. To see it through to the end, to keep the big picture in mind and to keep training the physical, train the mental, train the emotional so that we literally can be the best we can be. And on that note, team, I'm done. If you found this podcast beneficial, it would mean the world to me and Petey if you'd find it, if you'd pass it on to someone else that you think would also find it beneficial. And if you haven't already, jump on Facebook community. I say it each time, Mood Prep community on Facebook. Join the conversation there. And I know I've promised a Q&A. It is coming. There's a lot of things coming this month as well. I have my Mood Prep seminar in Sydney, 21st, 22nd of September. You can still get tickets at early bird price, but they're running out. That's at about $239 on my website, but also in the link in my bio or my Instagram at DDNix. But team, that's me out. Until tomorrow, you know the deal. Peace and pizza. Kick today in the dick. Slay the dragon. I'll see you guys soon.
Brad Bodnerchuk coming from you here in Vancouver, Canada. I had a quick question for you today after listening to Can't Hate What You Don't Know. So my question is, if we are in this mindset of accepting people and just understanding it's just our experience of them, how do we not become just so passive in what we're doing? Meaning, what do we actually stand for? So if someone's acting a certain way, it is triggering us, sure, but do we have to have, or should we have, standards in our life for the people that are around us? And how do you do that without projecting your ideals, your vision of how someone should show up and should act? So it's a balance that I'm struggling with. How do you stand for something, but also be super accepting as well?